Okay, so we are moving through the canons of the ecumenical councils, and we will be talking right now about the Second Ecumenical Council. It's really important to, first of all, before we start to uh, analyze canons of a particular council, to study, to read about this council. That's why canons, they are not reader-friendly pieces of legislation. We really need to put them in the context. And this is, I think, very orthodox. It's very orthodox, if I'm allowed to say, mantra, which is repeated all over again and again. Contextualize, contextualize, contextualize. With all studying the context, you not just study things taking out of the context, all right? So, the Second Ecumenical Council, which is the First Council of Constantinople. And this already enough to say, because we see that Constantinople now plays a very significant role in the empire, in the inhabited world, in Ecumenia. And it was the council under Theodosius I, right? It was still the 4th century, which was very loaded century in sense of it started with Diocletian's persecutions and ended with imperial Christianity. So, and the preceding council of 3 to 5 was not even in Constantinople, because Constantinople was still just a thing in the making, right? It was still in Nicaea, the city of victory, celebrating Emperor Justinian's 20 years in reign. Now we've seen that his nephew, Emperor Julian, he tried to deroot things. He tried to steer the empire back in time to the Hellenism, right? But he failed, and he died in something like 360, so 20 years, 363, I think the date. So in less than 20 years, we are seeing this council in Constantinople, which is super important. It's super important because our faith, which is personal faith, which is every one of us say, I believe, верую, right? Maybe in Slavonic, it's not that obvious as it is in English. That is a personal confession of the faith that every one of us subscribe daily when we read it in our morning prayers, and sort of, I don't know how to put it, but I mean, sort of profoundly we subscribe to this at our baptism, right? So, and this is Nicaea Constantinopolitan Creed. That's how properly to remember this. So, and this council was the council where great ecumenical teachers played their role. So St. Gregory, the theologian, St. Gregory of Nazianzus, he wasn't happy how this council proceeded. So, and he was quite bitter about this, right, this council. So, Timothy of Alexandria played important role in this council. And to see how, and he was Archbishop of Alexandria. And if you look at Timothy's canons that are part of our Corpus Canonum, you would see that those canons, they are marked as canons of his, I think, his beatitude, Timothy, Archbishop of Alexandria. So again, if you are attentive, you would see that he's not a saint precisely because of his dispute and confrontation with St. Gregory the theologian. Nevertheless, the mind of the church is seen in the fact that they are included, they are still including in canonical collection of the church. So that gives you idea that whatever was good and wise came out of him, church didn't discard, church used it. Okay, so, and it's one of the things to approach a particular council is to look at the very first canon of the council, sort of to sense the ethos of the council. Okay, so and I'm now reading. This is another unpaid advertisement about the book that I already mentioned by Archbishop Peter Lullier, The Church of the Ancient Councils. I really strongly recommend this to you if you are interested in canon law, or if you are interested in having a reference book to obtain this book, The Church of the Ancient Councils, the disciplinary work of the first four ecumenical council, because this volume provides scholastic commentaries on all canons adopted by the first four ecumenical councils, the Council of Chalcedon included. Okay, so
Father,
yes,
would you mind writing that book's name in the chat?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you,
Yes,
Father.
at your service, at your service. Right, Archbishop Peter, he converted early in his life into Orthodoxy, graduated from St. Denis Theological Institute in Paris, which was a Moscow Patriarchate establishment, sort of to give alternative to St. Serge Theological Institute. He was a Moscow Patriarchate bishop from early years, and then he served most of his life in America as Bishop of New York and New Jersey. So, and he taught at St. Vladimir Seminary, and we used to come to his house and have classes with him. It was something remarkable. Okay, so this is his book. And the canon 1 reads, let no one undermine the faith of the 318 fathers gathered in Nicaea in Bithynia, but let it remain firm and untouched, and let every heresy be anathematized, in particular that of the Eunomians or Anomians, that of the Arians or Eudoxians, that of the Semi-Arians or Pneumatomachi, that of the Sabellians, that of the Marcellians, that of the Photians, and that of the Apollinarius. Okay, so you see that it's already definition of orthodoxy, right? And orthodoxy, in a sense, as in the sense of ontological sense, so doctrinal orthodoxy, right? Which definition of how church believe versus how church did not believe, right? So you see, from the very early time, it became a very important thing, and it's already part of the canons, and the very first canons, right? And when you read about the council, you understand what they mean, and you understand why they adopted this. Otherwise, if just to read canons, I mean, it might be just disconnected, Okay, so canon number 2, who would like actually to read? I don't want to how to say, to hijack this. So who can read canon number 2?
I can if you'd like.
Please, Brother Seraphim, please do.
Okay. Bishops must not leave their own diocese and go over to churches beyond the boundaries, but on the contrary, in accordance with the canons, let the Bishop of Alexandria, a minister of the affairs of Egypt, only let the bishops of the East govern the Eastern Church only. The priorities granted to the Church of the Antiochians in the Nicene canons being kept invalid, and let the bishops of Asia of the Asian diocese or the administrative domain administer only the affairs of the Asian Church, and let those of the Pontic diocese look after the affairs of the Pontus only, and let those of the Thracian diocese manage the affairs of the Thracian diocese only, and let bishops not go beyond their own province to carry out ordination or any other ecclesiastical service, unless officially summoned thither. When the canon prescribed in regard to dioceses or administrative provinces is duty kept, it is evident that the synod of each province will confine itself to the affairs of that particular province, in accordance with the regulations decreed in Nicaea. But the churches of God that are situated in the territories belonging to barbarian nations must be administered in accordance with the customary practice of the fathers.
Thank you, Brother Seraphim. Right, again, sort of, we are aware of the fact that canons should not take the meaning of canons should not be taken for granted, and there are various translations, right? And those translations, they help us to see nuances. And in the English readers, they are lucky in the sense that they can look at several translations, right? And then, of course, you can identify the Greek word to look it up in a dictionary. So, Brother Seraphim, please listen up. I'm going to read the translations that I have from Archbishop Peter's book. Okay, I believe it would be essentially the same, but you would just see what I mean, please. Okay, let the bishops refrain from interfering in churches outside the limits of a diocese and from causing trouble in the churches. But in conformity to the canons, let the Bishop of Alexandria take care of just the affairs of Egypt. Let the bishops of the East only govern the East, the prerogatives recognized by the canons of Nicaea for the Church of the Antiochians being preserved. Let the bishops of the Diocese of Nicaea take care of just the affairs of Asia, the bishops of Pontus only the affairs of Pontus, the bishops of Phrygia only the affairs of Phrygia. If they are not invited, let the bishops refrain from going outside a diocese for an ordination or for any other ecclesiastical act. The above mentioned rule about the diocese being observed, it is obvious that the council of the province will direct the affairs of each province according to what was decided at Nicaea. Concerning the Church of God among the barbarian nations, it's important that they be administered by the custom established in the time of the fathers. So it gives us a lot of food for our thought, right? Number one, so customs of the fathers here are recognized. So church is based on precedent. That's the Orthodox Church, right? So we are deeply rooted in tradition, but not all of the traditions are equal, right? So if you paraphrasing George Orwell, right? So not all traditions are equal, but some of them more equal, and some of the traditions, according to the word of Saint Cyprian of Carthage, can be just an old mistake. That's also possible, that there is customs that are very popular, but in fact they are not rooted in Christian beliefs, are rooted in something else. So that we see here, right? And then also we see something that might be topical even today, that there is no idea of a super bishop. Right? And already in this time, the Church of Rome started to pay special attention to the doctrine of Petrine succession. that understanding of the words of the Lord regarding Apostle Peter, sort of as a Peter as foundation of was the Church of Rome and a special character of the Church of Rome, which something that for the Eastern Roman, for the Byzantines, was very, very, how to say, exotic, right? This the whole concept of Petrine episcopate. And that also gives you an idea about respect for canonical boundaries. Even let's say if Vladika Hilarion, our first hierarch, he travels to his beloved Australia, right, and he needs to change a plane in San Francisco, and he decides to pay a private visit to the sepulchre. He just got, let's say, 1 free hour between planes. But I'm sure that Bishop Kirill would meet him and he would know about him. He is not going to do it incognito, right? So, and same true if Отец Anatoly decides to go on his pilgrimage to San Francisco. So Bishop Kirill wouldn't be surprised seeing a Jordanville higher monk showing up in cathedral. So he will be well aware about his visit. So, and that gives you idea what makes a person церковный человек, what makes a person a church professional, right? Sort of understanding, minding those things. They may be overrated sometimes and so on. They may be just too many of those things, but you see their foundation, because whenever canon mentions a bishop, unless this is something specifically applied to bishop's capacity, ordained and guide, and something that no one else but bishop can do, it's also will be applicable to all clergy, including readers.
Mhm.
So you can replace a bishop for a reader, and unless reader it's something that doesn't make sense because reader cannot consecrate a bishop and so on, that also would be like the same clergy, right? So in our practice, I don't think, I mean, it's probably maybe not even bad idea to let somebody know that the reader will show up, but I mean, it's probably maybe not expected. I don't think that would be expected for either a subdeacon on a pilgrimage to inform a bishop. But at the same time, if somebody does, I can see why this person do it. You see what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
It's again
Yes.
like regarding readers, we know there are different attitudes. In the Church of Russia, readers consider kind of like glorified laymen.
Mhm.
So, but canonically, readers part of the clergy, but they kind of this fact is neglected practically in the church, in the Russian church. So in the Russian church abroad, we mind this, and that's why readers commune in sticharia. Whereas if you will be in Russia and would try to explain this, they might not necessarily understand what you want. If you say, I'm a reader, I want to get, dressed for communion, they kind of would just, shrug their shoulders, I would think. So, but again, those are different customs, and I think we have a point with following our tradition here. Okay. So, any questions regarding what we just done?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay, so then I propose that we start a break right now, and we will get together 10 o'clock sharply.
Okay, that sounds
Sounds
good
good
to
to
me.
me.
Thank you. So we continue with the canons of the Second Ecumenical Council. And the third canon is very straightforward. As for the Bishop of Constantinople, let him have the prerogatives of honor after Bishop of Rome, seeing that this city is the new Rome. So this is, again, close reading right now. We read this, we kind of let the text settle down in our minds, and we see that a rationale behind giving this new upstart city that didn't really have such a rich apostolic history as Antioch of Alexandria or Jerusalem, right? We see that a rationale behind this, not apostolic association, as of course with Rome, which is extremely strongly, so it's a very, very strong Christian city. So, but because the city became a capital, so administrative divisions, they do matter. And that's why Rome that's why Constantinople is called the New Rome. So again, this is a takeaway from this brief canon. So there is other canons that reflect upon exact issues that this council was busy with. But let's see again another example how something that was very particular can also be applicable outside of those particular circumstances. Canon number 4, concerning Maximus the Cynic and the disorder that he caused in Constantinople. We have decided that Maximus has never been and is not now a bishop, nor are those that he ordained, no matter what order of the clergy they were ordained to. Everything that was done in his name or done by him is declared null and void. Again, it's not very friendly, at least to say, piece of writing. So, who is the Maximus? What had he done? So, of course, we need now to look commentaries on this. And Archbishop Peter, he gives a very good example of the construction of a commentary here. The last of the decisions adopted by the Council of 381 deals with the adventure of Maximus the Cynic in Constantinople. We have already noted how Peter II of Alexandria had used Maximus to try to take control of the Church of Constantinople. So we see this struggle with this new upstart capital city and with all established Christian, very influential center of Alexandria. So the attempt miserably failed. St. Gregory the theologian has vividly recounted that this very strange story, which was extremely unpleasant for him personally. It is quite possible that this scandalous intrusion of Alexandria into the affairs of another church was one of the causes that pushed the members of the council to issue the canon about the Bishop of New Rome. Nullity was pronounced on the ordination of Maximus and therefore on all ordinations performed by him. This decision was quite within the spirit of ecclesiastical tradition. In the same way, Canon 6 of Nicaea considered as null any promotion of a bishop without the approval of the metropolitan. The Fathers of Constantinople used a formula similar to that of the Fathers of Nicaea. He is not a bishop. It was no accidental matter that two similar terms were used. The Greek term akiri offendon was correctly translated in Latin, at least in the ancient versions, as eritrum or by infirmata. Although this decision is related to a particular case, it must be considered important in canon law because it established a precedent by expressing a fundamental norm. So now it's important why this canon can be, how it can be useful. The Orthodox Church does not recognize ordinations carried out in an irregular manner, even if the consecrators are canonical bishops, such as were the Egyptian bishops sent by Peter of Alexandria to consecrate Maximus. Maximus never accepted his eviction and continued his intrigues in the West. The bishop gathered in Aquileia in September 381 under the authority of Ambrose of Milan believed what Maximus told them and thus considered him to be the legitimate bishop of Constantinople. but the council which was held in Rome in 382 did not go along with this decision. Moreover, Pope Damasus never did want to recognize Maximus. Thus, it seems that the decision of the See of Constantinople was not even brought up at this council. In addition, the Eastern bishops had made known the irrevocable nature of their decision on this matter. Nectarius was recognized by Pope Damasus, and from then on Maximus completely disappears from history. Finally, we note that the slight variations in the text of this canon in the manuscript tradition only concern unimportant details and in no way affect its meaning. So thus spoke Archbishop Peter, and we see how this event that's on the surface looks like something that totally belonged to the past is still relevant to us. And I know about one case when a bishop in our time already consecrated a clergyman in somebody else's diocese without having consulted a local bishop, and that local bishop complained about this to either council or synod. I think it was a council, and then council decided to annul this ordination. Probably this man had to be ordained again. Again, it's sort of like, I think, in extreme way. Probably on many other occasions they would come to amicable agreement to just bishop would apologize and his clergyman would be still valid, but sort of you see their point. And this is one of the examples that canons, they lay out fundamental infrastructure of the church, how church operates, right? And some of the things, they are very, we take them for granted. So, but nevertheless, they were not obvious, and they still sometimes not obvious. So, okay, number 6 is also useful. Who would like to read number 6 to us?
Я могу.
Хорошо, хорошо.
All right. Give me a second. It's like there is a small commentary, so.
Right.
For as much as many wishing to confuse and overturn ecclesiastical order do continuously and slanderously fabricate charges against the Orthodox bishops who have the administration of the churches, intending nothing else than to stain the reputation of the priests and raise up disturbances among the peaceful laity. Therefore, it seemed right to the Holy Synod of Bishops assembled together in Constantinople not to admit accusers without examinations, and neither to allow all persons whatsoever to bring accusation against the rulers of the church, nor, on the other hand, to exclude all. If then any one shall bring a private complaint against the bishop, that is, one relating to his own affairs, as, for example, that he has been defrauded or otherwise unjustly treated by him. In such accusations, no examination shall be made, either of the person or of the religion of the accuser, for it is by all means necessary that the conscience of the bishop should be free, and that he who says he has been wronged should meet with righteous judgment, of whatever religion he might be. But if the charge alleged against the bishop be that of some ecclesiastical offense, then it is necessary to examine carefully the persons of the accusers, so that in the first place heretics may not be suffered to bring accusations touching ecclesiastical matters against Orthodox bishops. And by heretics we mean both those who were aforetime cast out and those whom we ourselves have since anathematized, and also those professing to hold the true faith who have separated from our canonical bishops and set up conventicles in opposition to them. Moreover, if there be any who have been condemned for faults and cast out of the church or excommunicated, whether of the clergy or the laity, neither shall it be lawful for those to bring an accusation against the bishop until they have cleared away the charge against themselves. In like manner, persons who are under previous accusations are not to be permitted to bring charges against the bishop or any other clergyman until they shall have proven their own innocence of the accusation brought against them. But if any, being neither heretic nor excommunicate nor condemned, nor under previous accusation for alleged faults, should declare that they have any ecclesiastical charge against the bishop, the Holy Synod bids them first lay their charges before all the bishops of the province, and before them prove the accusations whatsoever they may be which they have brought against the bishop. And if the comprovincials should be unable rightly to settle the charges brought against the bishop, then the parties must betake themselves to a greater synod of the bishops of that diocese called together for this purpose. And they shall not produce their allegations before they have promised in writing to undergo an equal penalty to be exacted from themselves, if in the course of the examination they shall be proved to have slandered the accused bishop. And if anyone, despising what has been decreed concerning these things, shall presume to anoint to the ears of the emperor or the courts of temporal judges, or to the dishonor of all the bishops of the province, shall trouble an ecumenical synod, such an one shall by no means be admitted as an accuser, forasmuch as he has cast contempt upon the canons and brought reproach upon the order of the church. Ancient epitome of Oh, okay. Yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brat Ivan. So this is very important because this canon lays out church juridical procedure. So number one, it's okay to be a whistleblower, right? So it's okay to do it, to be a whistleblower, but it should be done properly. It should be done properly. And the recent case, right, which is in the making right now with Отец Andrei Psarev, with Father Andrei Psarev, is somehow an example that he pointed out to he voiced various accusations against bishops, but he did it over the internet, he did it in public, and without going through the chain of command, right? So, and this canon explains that.
Father, and
Yeah.
why did he do this?
Well, I mean, it's impossible to answer because I cannot read his mind. It's really impossible. Even person himself, as we know, not necessarily exactly understand motives very often. So, and as a historian, it's a question that I won't be able to say why person wanted to do this. I mean, in some sense, he sees himself from what he said as a prophet, as somebody who is concerned about his church, well-being. Probably didn't believe very much in success of going through through the standard procedure. But what we see here that you need to, it's okay to say that there are problems, but you do it also keeping in mind what the Lord said, right? That you go to brother and you find from the brother. And then if it wasn't successful, you visit this person with another Christian, and as a person, you establish that in fact, whatever you accuse this person took place, right? It's because very often we see one thing, and in reality there was another thing. That's very dangerous to trust ourselves on those things and make assumptions. So we really have to, in order to be fair toward another person, to make sure that we understand, we know, and we made all possible steps to clarify the matter. So, but there can be cases when it's impossible. So you still can report the case up to the chain of command. Okay, so, and it can be anyone. It can be a neighbor. It can be person, religious, non-religious. If this is something pertaining to various crimes or various things that not part of the faith, right? And it's very important to preserve the Catholic faith, the Orthodox faith. So therefore, if somebody accusing a person in heterodoxy, or accusing a person is various that pertain to this person's beliefs, number one, this person himself should be unblemished. So if the person is himself is not really an Orthodox, so then it's not going to be heard. Okay, so it's not going to be heard. So this is a loaded important canon that number one established that it's okay to drag attention to cases, right? It's also okay to defend ourselves. We don't need to accept all accusations against us if they are baseless, right? We still have room to defend ourselves. Okay, but also what is very important is this canon. This canon established authority of councils, that even if in very extraordinary cases, which are provisioned in Canon 15 of the First and Second Council of 861, when clergymen, subordinates, permitted conditionally to stop, commemorate their bishops in case if this bishop started to preach against the tradition, it still is envisioned as a temporary extraordinary measure that should bring the case to a council. So nowadays it's often cited as kind of permanent decision, sort of, I stop to commemorate this bishop because it's nonsense what he preaches, and that's it, and I go over to somebody else. And it means you already judges this bishop. You mean you already depose him. Do you follow me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that's not what I mean. You follow me in a sense, my argument, not that's what I meant. So, and that is important. That in my understanding, all those measures they should be done in a view of a council. And remember, when Metropolitan Sergei in Russia, what we studied in Russian church history, he was begging those who wanted to separate from him, wait for a council. There's going to be a council, and you will at this council voice all your grievances. You will voice all your concerns, right? So, and he had in mind exactly this authority of a council. That council is final forum where bishops get together and they discuss all things thoroughly. Okay, so that's also important, that if you, you theoretically separate from a bishop, you still have to fight and to work on having a council, having considered decision, not just treating this as a permanent measure. Okay, so that's what follows, right, from here. And canon number 7, the very last of the canons of Council of Constantinople. So, and it reads, those heretics who come over to Orthodoxy and to the society of those who are saved, we received according to the prescribed rite and custom. Arians, Macedonians, Novatianists, who call themselves pure and better, Quartodecimans, or Tetradites, as well as Apollinarians. We received them on condition that they present a written document and that they anathematized every heresy which is not in accord with the thinking of the Holy Catholic and Apostolic Church of God. And then they should be marked with the seal that is anointed with chrism on the forehead, eyes, nostrils, mouth, and ears. And as they are marked with the seal, we say, seal of the gift of the Holy Spirit. As for eunomians who are baptized with only one single immersion, Montanis here called Phrygians, Sabellians who teach the doctrine of Father, Son, and commit other abominable things, in all the other heresies, for there are many of them here, especially among the people coming from the country of the Galatians. All those among them that want to come over to Orthodoxy we received as pagans. The first day we make them Christians, the second catechumens, then the third we exercise them by blowing 3 times on their face and ears. Then we teach them and we make them come to the church for a long time and to hear the scriptures. After that, we baptize them. So again, another loaded document, right, that we see here also that people were received through chrismation. Something that is not very clear, right? And still right now there are different takes on this. What does this mean? Does this mean that the baptism of this person who was received through chrismation was valid? Or does this mean that this in act of the chrismation, this person basically received all what attributes to baptism? That's also school of thought that's kind of argue for this approach. But I think a little problem with this approach that baptism is divine institution that was directly directed by Christ, who said, "Go baptize all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son of the Holy Spirit." So this is something that was specifically directed, and with this in mind, to say that through chrismation the church would give all grace attribute to baptism, it's kind of scholastic to me, to my understanding. So I'm personally subscribed to tradition that this is reconciliation with the church through this rite, that they reconcile through this, because they received what normally people received as post-baptismal chrismation. But in favor of this interpretation, the second part of the canon that gives a rationale who should be baptized, that basically people who are very far away in doctrine from Orthodox Christianity, they should be baptized because they preserved very little connection with the church. So, and they don't confess Trinitarian doctrine. They don't baptize as church baptized. So the way you slice it, you see very little connection with the church, and to admit such people without baptism would be against church teaching. So kind of, it's a big issue of economia is here, right? That economia does have limits. And those limits are doctrinal teaching. Those limits are dogmas. That you cannot bend dogmas in order to implement, to exercise economy. Right? If somebody would say that I have aquaphobia, So can you use something else instead of water to baptize me? I'm sorry, I don't have it in store. So, right, there are limits to this. So I kind of really would like to help you, but that's limits. That's something I cannot do it, right? So, and that's important also to understand, because it's not going to be of the church. It's not going to represent church deal, church package that whatever church has, because it's something else, right? That because you are acting also on behalf of the church, you are not acting as independent agent, as independent subcontractor or whatever. So you act on behalf of what you were ordained. You were ordained of the church, for the church, as a person of a church. That's your capacity as a deacon, as your capacity as a reader. You're not just independent flyer. So that's important, right? It's important that economy can be applied to personal circumstances, can be applied to praxis of the church very quite widely. There is broad room to implement economy, to apply to for economy's application, but it cannot be extended to the teaching of the church. And baptism is one of those, I would say, dogmatic teaching that you only can join the church through baptism. And if church does recognize your baptism as belonging to the church, that it's still part of the only one single universal Orthodox church somehow, because let's say this is schismatic body, or let's say we received somebody who left us after 2007, right? So we're not necessarily rebaptizing them, even if they were baptized, because they still connected with us. It's not like there are two churches. There is one church, but they still preserve connection with this church. Does this make sense what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So therefore, you see, I hope you would agree that this is a very vivid illustration what can be found in canons. And this was nice, kind of nice, easy, how to say, not even so easy, but it was sort of nicely done. What I mean to say, there are 7 canons of the Second Council, so it wasn't hard to look at them. So now we are moving on. Council of Ephesus. The Council of Ephesus is important for the next one. The next council will be Council of Chalcedon of 451. And Council of Ephesus took place in 431 under Emperor Theodosius II. All right, and this council was important because Council of Chalcedon react to this, and Council of Chalcedon is important because we are still have people who don't recognize in big numbers, like Christians, people who call themselves Orthodox Christians in India, people in Egypt, all those famous monasteries that will be mentioned next week during Lenten retreat, Lenten readings from Desert Fathers and so on. So many of those monasteries, they are not in communion with us. And it was a result, a rejection of the Council of Chalcedon, right? But Council of Chalcedon dealt with Nestorius, right? And Nestorius, who was not quite an adoptionist, right? And adoptionism is an old heresy that, in a way, as woman carry a baby, she's a vessel for this baby, for this this baby, right? For 9 months. Then baby goes out of womb, and she's not a vessel anymore of this. And sort of this adoptionist theory, which is a heretical theory, that would mean that Christ, by his humanity, became a vessel of divinity, right? Sometimes Nestorius is reduced to this, but he himself worked hard not to be accused of this. But nevertheless, he wasn't able to express himself in a way that his presentation of Christology would be accepted by the church, right? And it took Saint Athanasius the Great. No, he wasn't great. He's not called Saint Athanasius. I'm sorry, Saint Cyril. It took Saint Cyril, who was based himself on Saint Athanasius the Great. That's how it is, right? So Saint Cyril of Alexandria, right? Saint Cyril of Alexandria, who stood up against Nestorius and against his teaching of the Mother of God as Christotokos instead of Theotokos, right? So, but also those division was division between Antiochian school and Alexandrian school, and it resulted in a conflict between churches of Egypt and churches in Syria. So regardless of theological truth, the imperial authorities were very concerned about destabilization of the empire. The two churches were not, they were part of, they were still under the same roof, they were still in the same empire. It wasn't before Muslim invasions, but they were not in talking terms, right? Because Syrians in huge numbers, they follow Nestorians, right? And Egypt follow Saint Cyril of Alexandria. Okay, so again, the first canon can kind of speak about the ethos, and the first one reads, since it was necessary that those who did not at all attend the Holy Council for a churchly reason or by reason of physical infirmity, whether they live in an urban or a rural area, should not be ignorant of what was decided concerning them. We hereby make known to your holiness and love that if the metropolitan of the province, being separated from the Holy Ecumenical Council, joins the assembly of apostasy or joined it later on, or even if he only shared the opinions of Celestius, he can undertake no action against the bishops of the province, seeing that he has already been excluded from all churchly communion by the council, and thus is suspended. What is more, it is the responsibility of the bishops of the province and of the neighboring metropolitans who are of Orthodox opinion to exclude him completely from the rank of bishop. So it's referring there are a lot of stuff. I think a number of canons is related to situation in Ephesus when bishops, Nestorians bishops, they arrived later in a few weeks when Saint Cyril already presided at this council. So they were very unhappy about this. So they set up a rival council, and both councils, they excommunicated each other. So and now, of course, question what to do if your boss, if your superior went with Nestorians, right? And that's again gives you idea that Orthodox beliefs, they are on top level of priority, right? And if a bishop went into a schism, right, which can be a case in Ukraine nowadays, or was case in 1596, when all bishops, but two in the very last minute, they endorsed union with Rome in Brest, right? And it was very similar to Ephesus in Brest in 1596. Two councils met in the same town, in little corners of the same town, right? One was Orthodox and the other one was a Union Council. And here is one was Orthodox and the other one was Nestorian Council. Okay, so and there is a number of canons that deal precisely with this issue regarding Nestorians, regarding apostasy, but the same rationale can be extended to other things, not just Nestorians, right? So and it's all still regarding this. Okay, who would Who would like to read number 7 to us, please?
I can do it. Which one you say?
Number 7 of Council of Ephesus, the Third Ecumenical Council, part 1.
Okay. I only have a Russian version pulled up. Do you want me to read it in English?
Right. Okay. So try to get next time the English ones that we all can do this sort of exercise.
Okay. I can look it up quickly.
Okay. Okay. Do this.
Let's see.
Okay. Brat Ivan Griznov, please prepare to read canon number 8, and also to provide your comment to be ready to analyze, to tell us about this comment, this canon. Okay, while we are talking about number 7, prepare your little exegesis on canon number 8. Okay, of the same council. So are you ready, Brother Analitov? Are you ready?
No, I can't seem to find it. I'll ask Brother Seraphim to send me a link to it.
Okay. So Seraphim, can you read number 7 to us, please? Brother Seraphim. Okay, so I'm reading this. Therefore,
Я могу прочитать, Александр, я могу прочитать.
I just found it, Father.
Okay, Brother Seraphim, please read it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, please go ahead.
These things having been read aloud, the Holy Council then declared that no one should be permitted to offer any different belief or faith, or in any case, to write or compose any other than the one defined by the Holy Fathers, who convened in the city of Nicaea with the Holy Spirit. As for those who dare either to compose a different belief or faith, or to present one, or to offer one to those who wish to return to the recognition of the truth, whether they be Greeks or Jews, or be members of any heresy whatever, they, if bishops or clergymen, shall be deprived as bishops of the episcopate, and clergymen of the clericate. But if they are laymen, they shall be anathematized in an equally applicable way. If any persons be detached or caught, whether bishops or clergymen or laymen, in the act of believing or teaching the things embodied in the exposition or dissertation presented by the Charistes, the Charistes, the presbyter, concerning the incarnation of the only begotten Son of God, or by any chance the unholy and preserved dogmas of the Nestorians, which have been subjoined, let them be liable to the judgment of this holy and ecumenical council. As a consequence, that is to say, the bishop shall be deprived of his episcopate and be left deposed from the office, while the clergyman shall likewise forfeit his clericate. If, on the other hand, any such person be a layman, let him be anathematized, as foresaid.
Right. So you see, this is orthodoxy in the making, right? So it reinforces Nicene faith, the faith of the Nicaea, right, in the church. That's very, very important. Very, very important historically, right? That it does not really allows to revisit the Council of Nicaea, right? The Council of Nicaea, the faith of Nicaea, is taking as a cornerstone of our doctrine. Okay, so you kind of see again how things develop, right? So how the church building was progressing. Okay, so now okay, Brat Ivan Griznov, you ready with canon number 8 to read the comment, please?
For some reason, I have it until number 7. So let me see the next page, maybe.
Okay, I'm going to read it just for a
Okay,
second.
yeah, yes, please, because like in my list, it's on
Fine.
the number
That's
7.
okay. That's okay. But you prepare to comment on this, okay? An innovation contrary to church institutions and the canons of the Holy Fathers, as well as an attack on the liberty of all who has been reported to us by Reginius, the very religious fellow bishop, and by those who were with them, the very reverend bishops of the province of the Cypriots, Zeno and Evagrius. Okay, period. Sicknesses that affect everyone need urgent remedies, all the more so because they can cause such great suffering. Therefore, if no ancient custom exists according to which the bishop of the city of the Antiochians performed their ordinations in Cyprus, we have learned by written and verbal reports this is so. So there is no such proof. The very reverend men who have had recourse to the Holy Council, the heads of the holy churches in Cyprus, without being battered or exposed to violence, will proceed according to the canons of the Holy Fathers and ancient usage to the ordinations of their own very reverend bishops. Right? So it says that now Cypriots can be autocephalous, in other words, that they now can consecrate their own bishops, because it says that previously it was a prerogative of the Antioch, who were, of course, connected with Nestorians nowadays. The same things will also be observed in the other dioceses and everywhere in the provinces, so that none of the bishops beloved of God shall take over another province that in former times and from the beginning has not been under his authority or that of his predecessors. And if anyone has thus taken over any province and by force has placed it under his authority, let him give it back so that the canons of the fathers may not be transgressed, and so that under the pretext of holy acts, the pride of worldly power enters, and that without our knowing it, we may lose little by little the liberty, the freedom, in other words, that has been given to us by the blood of our Lord Jesus Christ, the liberator of all men. It has therefore seemed good and proper to the Holy Ecumenical Council that the rights acquired from the beginning and established according to ancient usage from time immemorial be safeguarded intact and inviolate for each province. Each metropolitan has the leisure to take a copy of the acts as a guarantee for himself. If anyone produces an ordinance contrary to what has now been defined, the Holy Council with one voice declare it to be null. Okay, Brat Ivan, please.
Well, I believe this canon prevents from the conflicts like introducing politics and regional interests. So it prevents conflicts between different episcopates, if I understood correctly.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely there. Да не утратим мы мало-помалу той свободы, которую Господь нам даровал. That's how it is in Книга Правил. Right, very beautifully said. It's called Дымное надмение мира. Okay, it's also like poetry, sounds like poetry. But what is really interesting here, right, that Cyprus, since that time, the Fourth Ecumenical Council is autocephalous. The Church of Cyprus, it's autocephalous. It's not a patriarchate, but this is an autocephalous church. This is an apostolic see planted by Saint Apostle Barnabas. And it's important that it was connected with Antioch, right? So kind of Orthodox Church respects ancient customs, tradition, age. It's all really very reputable here. But at the same time, it was still possible to stop this association here, to release the Church of Cyprus from subordination to the Church of Antioch. And what other ancient church was planted by Church of Antioch? Right? Church, the Georgian church, right? The Church of Georgia. So, and it's something that might serve as a point of reference also for our present situation with the ecumenical throne, which is called hierarchical, a mother church for the Russian church, because the Russians received Christianity from Constantinople, but sort of this canon can also serve as a point of reference. Do you see my point here?
I
Yes.
think so. Yeah.
So, right, Brother Seraphim, because the Church of Antioch started to consecrate bishops for Cyprus. And then a bishop from Cyprus brought this issue up in front of the council in Ephesus. And the council decided to stop it, that it's not going to be forever, right? The council decided to release the Church of Cyprus from the relationship to the Church of Antioch. It kind of was separated them forever. The kind of, how to say, what is the expression? So they they departed like ships in night, right? In the night. Okay. So that also gives you, that's, you don't have to be in such a bond. Yes, they were connected. I mean, one may argue, listen up, those two churches, they are apostolic churches, and Church of Russia is of lesser dignity if you come with this approach. Well, but I mean, it's an interesting point to consider, but it's an issue for another discussion. So kind of like different weight class among the churches. You see what I mean?
Yes, yes.
So this is something that, again, it's something that is strongly tradition based, or it's something that yes, it is a tradition. I am aware of it, but to what extent this tradition is a tradition that we need to obey, we need to follow. Okay, so